In the vast and varied world of unexplained phenomena, few stories capture the imagination quite like that of a phantom aircraft. The tale of Santiago Airlines Flight 513 is a premier example of such a legend, a chilling narrative that blends the ordinary world of air travel with the extraordinary realm of the supernatural. The story goes like this. A commercial airliner takes off on a routine flight, only to vanish without a trace over the vast expanse of the Atlantic Ocean. Decades pass, families grieve, and the world moves on, consigning the lost plane and its occupants to the sad annals of aviation history. Then, one day, without warning, the very same aircraft mysteriously reappears in the sky, landing perfectly at its originally intended destination as if no time had passed at all. But the true horror is discovered only after the cabin doors are opened, revealing a silent skeletal crew and a passenger list of the long dead. This haunting account has all the elements of a classic ghost story, masterfully updated for the modern age of technology and global travel. It taps into our collective anxieties about the unknown, the fragility of life, and the mysteries that might lie just beyond our understanding of time and space. The image of a plane full of skeletons, frozen in their final moments while the aircraft itself remains operational, is a profoundly unsettling concept. It suggests a journey not just through the air, but through a dimension where the laws of physics as we know them cease to apply. The story has been shared countless times online, in forums and on social media, often presented as a genuine, albeit deeply strange historical event that authorities have tried to cover up, adding a layer of conspiracy to its already potent mix of mystery and horror. The narrative of Flight 513 functions as a modern-day myth, a piece of folklore that speaks to our fascination with the inexplicable. It feels just plausible enough to make us question our assumptions about the world. After all, real planes have tragically disappeared, leaving behind lingering questions and unresolved grief. This story takes that real-world fear and amplifies it, adding a supernatural twist that is both terrifying and strangely compelling. It promises an answer, however bizarre, to the ultimate question of what happens when something vanishes from our world. It suggests that things aren't always gone forever. Sometimes they are just waiting in some other place, some other time, ready to return and confront us with a reality far stranger than we could have ever imagined. For many who encounter it for the first time, the story of Santiago Flight 513 is presented as a piece of hidden history, a puzzle that mainstream science and official channels refuse to acknowledge. This framing makes it even more appealing, as it invites the reader to become part of a select group who knows the truth. The tale's persistence is a testament to the power of a well-crafted narrative, especially one that plays on our deepest fears and curiosities. It endures not because of the evidence supporting it, but because of the powerful emotional and psychological chords it strikes. Before we can understand why it is definitively false, we must first appreciate why it became so popular. It is a ghost ship for the jet age, a story perfectly engineered to send a shiver down the spine of anyone who hears it. Every story has an origin, and the fantastical tale of Santiago Flight 513 is no exception. Its journey from a mere idea into a global urban legend began not in the dusty archives of an aviation authority or a declassified government file, but on the sensational pages of a supermarket tabloid. The source was the Weekly World News, an American publication renowned for its outlandish and entirely fabricated stories. On November 14, 1989, the newspaper published an article by a writer named Erwin Fisher, unveiling the shocking discovery to its readership. The story was presented with the same serious tone and layout as a genuine news report, complete with a dramatic headline and supposed quotes from government officials, lending it a veneer of credibility that was instrumental in its later success as a viral myth. The Weekly World News was not in the business of reporting facts. It was in the business of entertainment, selling papers by creating the most bizarre and eye-catching stories imaginable. Its pages were filled with tales of alien encounters, mythical creatures, and celebrity scandals that were entirely fictional. The Santiago Flight 513 story was a perfect fit for its brand of sensationalism. The article claimed that a long-lost plane had landed at an airport in Brazil, stunning aviation authorities and paranormal experts alike. By placing the story within a publication that looked like a newspaper, the creators gave the hoax a powerful launchpad. Many readers, perhaps picking it up for a laugh or out of casual curiosity, would not necessarily have been aware of the paper's reputation for pure invention, making the story's initial spread much more effective. The choice of a tabloid as the vehicle for this story was a strategic one, whether intentional or not. Mainstream news outlets are bound by journalistic ethics and standards of verification which would have immediately prevented such a story from ever being printed. A tabloid like the Weekly World News, however, operated in a different universe of information, one where the only standard that mattered was whether a story was entertaining enough to grab a reader's attention. The article about Flight 513 was meticulously crafted to be just that. It blended just enough technical-sounding jargon and specific details, like the flight number, the date of disappearance, and the location of its landing, to make the incredible events seem grounded in some kind of reality, blurring the line between fact and fiction for the unsuspecting reader. This origin is the most critical piece of evidence in understanding that the Flight 513 saga is a complete fabrication. It was not a mystery that emerged from official reports or eyewitness accounts that were later embellished. It was invented from whole cloth for the express purpose of selling newspapers. The story was born as fiction, designed to shock and entertain a specific audience that enjoyed reading about the strange and the impossible, knowing that the tale's genesis lies in a publication famous for headlines like "Bat Child Found in Cave" and 12 US Senators Are Space Aliens immediately reframes the entire narrative. It ceases to be a potential paranormal event and reveals itself for what it truly is, a clever and successful piece of commercial fiction. To understand why the Santiago Flight 513 story became so enduring, one must look at the specific, memorable details that its creators wove into the narrative. These elements are what make the story so vivid and repeatable. According to the original Weekly World News article, the flight was Santiago Airlines Flight 513, a Lockheed Super Constellation aircraft. The journey began in Aachen, Germany, on September 4, 1954, with a final destination of Porto Alegre, Brazil. On board were 88 passengers and a crew of 4, totaling 92 souls. The story claims that shortly after takeoff, the plane vanished without a distress call while flying over the Atlantic Ocean. For 35 years it was presumed lost, another tragic but not entirely unheard of aviation incident from that era. The most dramatic part of the tale, and the element that everyone remembers, is the plane's sudden and inexplicable reappearance. The legend states that on October 12, 1989, air traffic controllers at the Porto Alegre airport were baffled when an unauthorized aircraft began circling overhead. It was a vintage Lockheed Super Constellation, a type of plane that had not been in commercial service for decades. Without any radio contact, the mysterious aircraft proceeded to make a flawless landing. The sight of this ghost plane touching down after 35 years of silence was just the beginning of the mystery. Airport authorities and government agents, according to the story, surrounded the aircraft, their confusion turning to dread as they approached the silent vessel. The climax of the narrative is its most macabre and unforgettable detail. Upon forcing open the cabin doors, the authorities were met with a truly ghastly sight. All 92 people on board were still in their seats, but they were not people anymore. They were skeletons. The passengers were skeletal remains, still strapped into their chairs. In the cockpit, the horror continued. The skeleton of the pilot, Captain Miguel Victor Curie, was found with its bony hands still gripping the controls of the aircraft. Even more impossibly, the story claimed that the plane's engines were still idling, humming softly as if they had just been shut down after a routine flight, a detail that defies all known principles of mechanics and fuel consumption. These specific details are the building blocks of the legend. The flight number, the dates, the aircraft model, and the skeletal crew create a framework that feels concrete and historical. They provide hooks for the imagination, making the story easy to retell and embellish. The image of a skeleton pilot landing a plane is a powerful cinematic moment that sticks in the mind. The idling engines add a layer of technological impossibility that pushes the story firmly into the realm of the supernatural. It is through these carefully crafted and chilling particulars that the hoax was able to take on a life of its own, transforming from a simple tabloid article into a piece of modern folklore that continues to be shared as a true story across the globe. When the captivating story of Santiago Flight 513 is examined under the bright light of verifiable facts, the entire narrative quickly falls apart. The legend, so carefully constructed with its specific details, cannot withstand even the most basic scrutiny. The first and most glaring issue is the airline itself. The story claims the flight belonged to Santiago Airlines, but there is absolutely no record of such an airline ever existing. Major aviation historical societies, official government registries, and international airline databases contain no mention of a carrier by that name operating in the 1950s or at any other time. This is not a case of a small, forgotten company, it is a complete fabrication. An airline with a fleet of long-haul aircraft like the Super Constellation would have left a significant paper trail, yet none exists. Furthermore, the flight itself is a ghost in the records. There is no official report, no contemporary news article from 1954, and no entry in any aviation accident database corresponding to the disappearance of a Flight 513 or any Lockheed Super Constellation over the Atlantic on September 4th of that year. A plane carrying 92 people vanishing would have been a major international news story. Families of the passengers and crew would have demanded answers, and governments would have launched extensive search and rescue operations. The complete absence of any such historical record from reputable sources like the Associated Press, Reuters, or major newspapers of the time is definitive proof that the event never happened. The silence is not evidence of a cover-up, it is evidence of non-existence. Similarly, the alleged reappearance in 1989 is completely unsubstantiated. The landing of a phantom plane full of skeletons at a major international airport like Porto Alegre would have been an unprecedented global event. It would have been impossible to conceal. Thousands of witnesses, from airport staff and passengers in the terminal to residents living nearby, would have seen the vintage aircraft. News crews from around the world would have descended on the location. Yet not a single credible news report from 1989 exists to corroborate any part of the story. No airport officials, no government agents, and no police officers from Porto Alegre have ever come forward to confirm the incident. The entire event exists only within the pages of the Weekly World News and the internet forums that later propagated the tale. The lack of evidence is total and absolute. Fact-checking organizations like Snopes and numerous aviation experts have investigated the claims exhaustively and have all reached the same, unequivocal conclusion. The story is a hoax. Every single element of the tale, from the airline and the flight to the disappearance and the ghostly landing, is fictional. There are no blurry photographs, no ambiguous radar readings, and no lost government documents to fuel speculation. There is simply nothing. The legend of Santiago Flight 513 is a hollow creation, a narrative built on a foundation of pure invention, which collapses the moment one asks for a single piece of verifiable proof. Beyond the lack of any official records, the very logistics of the flight described in the Santiago Flight 513 legend are honestly, fundamentally impossible. The story's creators, while certainly imaginative, overlooked several key technical and geographical details that an actual flight plan would require. These practical impossibilities, serve as some of the most compelling evidence that the entire narrative is a work of fiction. The first major flaw is the departure point. The article claims the flight took off from Aachen, Germany. However, back in 1954, Aachen just didn't have an international airport capable of handling a large, heavy, four-engine aircraft like the Lockheed Super Constellation. Its local airfield at the time was basically a simple grass strip, suitable for small, light aircraft, not a fully loaded intercontinental airliner. The nearest major airport would have been in a different city and, honestly, probably even a different country. Another critical flaw in the story is the flight's proposed range. The supposed route from Aachen, Germany to Porto Alegre, Brazil, covers a distance of nearly 6,600 miles, about 10,600 kilometers. This presents a significant problem for the chosen aircraft, the Lockheed L1049 Super Constellation. While it was a magnificent plane for its time, its maximum range was approximately 5,150 miles, or about 8,290 kilometers, and that was under ideal conditions, with extra fuel tanks. It simply did not have the fuel capacity to complete the alleged non-stop journey. A real flight between these two locations in that era would have required at least one, and more likely multiple, refueling stops along the way, a detail conveniently omitted from the sensational tale. The technical state of the aircraft upon its supposed landing introduces yet another layer of impossibility. The legend famously claims that the plane's engines were still idling after it landed. For an aircraft to remain airborne for 35 years, it would require an incomprehensible amount of fuel, far beyond anything a plane could carry. Even if we entertain the supernatural idea of a time warp that preserved the plane, the laws of physics on our end would still apply. For the engines to be idling upon landing, they would need fuel in the tanks and a functioning electrical system to power the ignition. The idea that these complex mechanical systems could remain in a perfectly preserved, ready-to-run state for over 3 decades, let alone power a perfect landing, is pure science fiction. Finally, the concept of an unassisted landing by a skeletal pilot just defies all logic and understanding of aviation. Flying and landing a large, complex aircraft like a superconstellation is a hands-on, mentally demanding task that requires constant, precise inputs from a living, breathing pilot. The notion that a skeleton, with no muscles to move the controls and no brain to process information, could guide an aircraft to a smooth touchdown is, well, utterly absurd. It's a fantastical image designed for horror, not a plausible event. Each of these practical details, the airport, the range, the fuel, and the mechanics of flight, serves as an independent and decisive nail in the coffin of the Flight 513 myth, proving that the journey as described was not just improbable, but impossible from the very start. To fully grasp why the Santiago Flight 513 story is a hoax, one must understand the nature of its publisher, the Weekly World News. This American tabloid, which ran in print from 1979 to 2007 before moving online, was not a news organization in any traditional sense. Its business model was based on creating and publishing entirely fabricated stories designed to be as sensational and unbelievable as possible. The paper's content was a form of satirical, fictional entertainment, presented in the format of a real newspaper. Its editors and writers were not journalists uncovering hidden truths. They were creative storytellers inventing modern folklore for a mass audience. Their goal was to sell copies through shock and amusement, not to inform the public. The Weekly World News had a long and storied history of publishing tales even more outlandish than that of Flight 513. Its most famous creation was arguably Batchild, a recurring character who was supposedly discovered in a cave and had a series of bizarre adventures. Other classic headlines included 12 U.S. senators are space aliens, heaven photographed by Hubble telescope, and Elvis is alive and working as a janitor. Seen in this context, the story of a phantom plane landing with skeletons is perfectly in line with the newspaper's standard fare. It was just another fantastic tale, sandwiched between stories about Bigfoot's love life and predictions from a two-headed psychic. The publication never made any secret of its fictional nature among those familiar with its work. Interestingly, the Flight 513 story was not even an original concept for the tabloid. In May 1985, 4 years before the Santiago Flight article, the Weekly World News published a strikingly similar tale about Pan Am Flight 914. In that version, a plane supposedly disappeared in 1955 on a flight from New York to Miami, only to land 30 years later in Caracas, Venezuela. This earlier story serves as a kind of template for the Flight 513 hoax, demonstrating that the writers had a successful formula they were willing to reuse. They simply changed the details, the airline, the dates, the locations, and the ghoulish discovery of skeletons, to create a new but familiar narrative. This pattern of recycling fantastic plots is a clear sign of creative fiction, not investigative reporting. The legacy of the Weekly World News is a peculiar one. While it was a source of amusement for many, it also played a significant role in blurring the lines between news and entertainment, a phenomenon that has become much more pronounced in the internet age. Its stories were so well crafted and presented with such a straight face that, once removed from the context of the tabloid itself, they could easily be mistaken for real events by those unfamiliar with the source. The Santiago Flight 513 story is a prime example of this process. It escaped the confines of its fictional home and took on a life of its own, a specter born from the pages of a paper that specialized in creating them. A key strategy used in the Weekly World News article to make the Santiago Flight 513 story seem more legitimate was the inclusion of quotes from supposed experts and officials. By attributing information to people with authoritative-sounding titles, the story created a powerful illusion of credibility. The original article heavily featured a paranormal researcher named Dr. Telso Atello. This fictional expert was quoted as being baffled by the event, refusing to offer a definitive explanation but speculating that the aircraft had somehow entered a time warp. This is a classic technique in disinformation. If you cannot provide real evidence, you invent a specialist to suggest a fantastic theory that makes the story more intriguing and mysterious. Of course, Dr. Celso Otello is as fictional as the flight itself. No record exists of any paranormal researcher or academic with this name being associated with any reputable institution or publication outside of the Weekly World News article. He is a character invented by the writer to serve a specific purpose in the narrative. His role was to validate the supernatural element of the story. By having an expert suggest a time warp, the article preemptively answered the audience's question of, how could this possibly happen? It provided a ready-made, pseudo-scientific explanation that sounds just plausible enough to suspend disbelief, especially for readers already interested in paranormal topics. This manufactured authority makes the incredible claims seem as though they are being seriously considered by knowledgeable people. The article also mentioned that government officials had refused to comment on the incident, another classic trope used to bolster conspiracy theories and hoaxes. This detail serves two functions. First, it implies that the event really did happen and that there is something to comment on. Second, it creates an air of secrecy and cover-up, suggesting that the authorities are hiding a truth too shocking for the public to handle. This encourages readers to believe they are being let in on a secret that the establishment wants to suppress. The lack of any real official comment, which is due to the event never having occurred, is cleverly twisted into evidence that a conspiracy is afoot. It turns the absence of proof into proof itself. This technique of inventing sources and experts is a hallmark of fake news and disinformation, both then and now. It is a simple but highly effective way to dress up a complete fabrication to look like a legitimate news story, by creating a cast of characters, the paranormal researcher, the tight-lipped government agents. The Weekly World News built a more immersive and believable world for its fictional event. These invented authorities are the ghosts in the machine of the hoax, spectral figures who lend their phantom credibility to a story that has none. Recognizing this tactic is a crucial skill for navigating a media landscape where fictional experts are still regularly conjured up to promote baseless claims. Despite being thoroughly and repeatedly debunked for decades, the story of Santiago Flight 513 continues to circulate online as a genuine mystery. Its remarkable persistence reveals a great deal about human psychology and the way we consume and share information. One of the primary reasons such hoaxes endure is that they are often far more entertaining and emotionally satisfying than the simple truth. The reality, that a tabloid writer invented a story to sell papers, is mundane. In contrast, the legend of a ghost plane caught in a time warp is a thrilling, mysterious, and deeply evocative narrative. People are naturally drawn to good stories, and the tale of Flight 513 is a masterfully crafted piece of modern folklore that engages our sense of wonder and fear. Another key factor in the story's longevity is the phenomenon of confirmation bias. People who are already inclined to believe in the paranormal, government cover-ups, or unexplained phenomena are more likely to accept the story as true without question. It fits neatly into their existing worldview. When they encounter the legend, it confirms their belief that the world is more mysterious than mainstream science admits. Any evidence presented to debunk the story may be dismissed as part of the cover-up or the work of closed-minded skeptics. The story survives not on the strength of its evidence but on its ability to resonate with pre-existing beliefs, making it resistant to factual correction for a certain audience. The structure of the internet and social media has also played a massive role in breathing new life into old hoaxes like this one. In the pre-internet era, the story was confined to the pages of a tabloid and word of mouth. Today, it can be repackaged as a YouTube video, a blog post, or a viral tweet, stripped of its original source and context. A person sharing the story may have no idea it came from the Weekly World News. They see a compelling headline and a spooky story and click share. This digital wildfire effect allows misinformation to spread faster and farther than ever before, reaching millions of people who accept it at face value. Each share adds a layer of social proof, making the story seem more credible to the next person who sees it. Finally, there is a part of us that simply wants to believe. The world can often seem ordinary and predictable, and stories like that of Flight 513 offer an escape into a reality filled with magic and mystery. They hint at the possibility that there are still vast undiscovered secrets in the universe and that time, life, and death may not work the way we think they do. This appeal to wonder is a powerful force. Even if we suspect it might not be true, it is fun to imagine a world where it could be. This emotional connection is what gives the hoax its staying power, allowing it to survive long after the facts have proven it to be nothing more than a fantastic and admittedly unforgettable tale. While the story of Santiago Flight 513 is a complete fabrication, it is important to acknowledge that aviation history does have its share of genuine, tragic, and still unsolved mysteries. The key difference lies in the nature of the evidence and the source of the information. Real-life aviation mysteries, such as the 1937 disappearance of Amelia Earhart, or the 2014 vanishing of Malaysia Airlines flight MH370, are defined by what is known and documented, as well as by what remains unknown. These events are recorded in official records, generated massive and well-documented search efforts, and left behind grieving families whose pain is a matter of public record. The mystery is in the absence of a final answer, not in the fabrication of the event itself. Comparing the Flight 513 hoax to a real case like MH370 highlights the stark contrast. For MH370, we have confirmed flight records, passenger manifests, radar data tracking part of its journey, and satellite pings that gave clues to its general direction. We have physical evidence in the form of debris that has washed ashore. The mystery of MH370 is agonizing because we have so many facts that lead to a dead end. The mystery of Flight 513, on the other hand, has no facts at all. It is a fictional narrative created for entertainment, while the story of MH370 is a real-world tragedy affecting hundreds of lives, and its unresolved nature is a source of profound and lasting pain. In a world saturated with information, developing the skills to distinguish between credible news and entertaining fiction is more important than ever. The first step is always to consider the source. Is the story coming from a reputable news organization with a history of journalistic integrity, or from a website or publication known for sensationalism or satire? A quick search for the original source of the Flight 513 story immediately leads to the Weekly World News, instantly identifying it as a hoax. Checking for corroboration from multiple, independent and reliable sources is another crucial step. A real event of this magnitude would be reported by major news agencies worldwide, not just one obscure publication. Ultimately, the legend of Santiago Flight 513 serves as a valuable case study in critical thinking and media literacy. It teaches us to question extraordinary claims and to seek out verifiable evidence before accepting something as true. While the tale of the Phantom Flight is a captivating piece of fiction, it is essential to keep it in the realm of ghost stories where it belongs. By doing so, we not only honor the truth but also show respect for the real victims of actual aviation tragedies. We can enjoy the thrill of a good legend, but we must never confuse these entertaining myths with the solemn and often painful realities of the world.